I love the name Superhuman. How did you come up with that specifically?
I felt like I had access to this copywriter, this social media content creator, this kind of newsletter writer, all these different things that were like a 7, 8 out of 10. I felt like having all these interns. I felt like I was getting all these superpowers because of this. And I was thinking, if I extrapolate this trend, if from GPT-2 to 3 we've seen such a big jump, I bet 4, 5, 6, 7 are going to be, if they're of the same magnitude, we generally are going to see some superhuman level increases in capabilities. I think we're still seeing them. GPT-4 was just a bigger leap as GPT-3, in my opinion. And that's basically where sort of like the inspiration and the idea for calling it superhuman came from.
How do you stay on top of everything out there? There's just so much to consume and it's changing so rapidly. So, how do you do it?
So a combination, I would say, of sort of like traditional media legacy outlets combined with all sorts of different social media places and then product launch places as well.
Do you use AI to help you write the newsletter?
With a lot of new topics, it doesn't have the context, doesn't have the information. So you can't just ask it to go and write a topic about this. If I say, hey, ChatGPT, write an article on the Ryan glasses that we released yesterday, it can't quite do that. But where I do find it handy is two places. Number one is whenever I come across something that I don't understand, I just go and ask ChatGPT or Claude what this is and so on. Second place, I sort of like, launched the whole newsletter with my own money. Didn't have any cash to hire more folks. We had like one part-time person was kind of helping me on that. Was like all the money that I had to spend on it. So what happened there is, for images, I started using Midjourney, and I found that Midjourney was producing images that were pretty much as good as any other media publication out there. And instead of hiring a designer, which would have cost me tens of thousands of dollars, and every image, they need a turnaround time of a couple of days and so on, I was getting very high quality images for the newsletter within seconds for like tiny, tiny, tiny fraction of the cost. Like an image is what, like maybe generating that is like 2 cents. And then finally, AI is an amazing editor, right? I don't think it does a great job as a first pass, but if you give it a piece of writing and you say, hey, improve this writing, find problems with it, help me say this in a more sort of like imaginative way, it does very well with short blocks of text and helping you edit those and making those better as well.
So, you've mentioned a few AI tools already: ChatGPT, Midjourney, Claude. What are your favorites? Like, do you have maybe like 3 to 5 go tos that you're like, these are the ones I use all the time that you could recommend to other people?
I would say my favorite right now is Perplexity. So much of my job is searching for things. So, for example, writing the newsletter and so on, I often have to go search for different articles, but then I have certain questions about certain articles. And Google just oftentimes isn't able to answer that. I would say in 70% of the cases when I'm looking for that sort of information, Perplexity does yield an answer. Midjourney, I love, love, love just because the amount of like, it's fun to use because you create all these images, you're experimenting with different prompts, different kind of image styles. I've definitely loved using Midjourney a lot. And recently, I've just been using Claude a lot. I've not been using ChatGPT as much. I think ChatGPT is great with things like data analysis, a few other things. I find that when it comes to writing, Claude is just incredible.
What other areas do you think are unexplored right now where AI really should be seeing some advancements coming up in the next year or two?
The most obvious place right now is video. I'm very excited to see the kinds of things people produce there. I think the most obvious thing people say are people are going to start producing like Hollywood grade movies using AI, and probably will be the case. But it's hard to predict the outcomes a little bit. Like when Apple put cameras into the iPhone, no one would have predicted, drawn a straight line and said, we'll end up on Reels and TikToks and so on. I think that's a very hard line to draw. That's how people ended up using them, right? People didn't use them to create Hollywood great movies. Some people might have, but 99.9%, that's not how the thing ended up getting used.
You write a lot about AI tools, business, how it's kind of changing and evolving the world. How do you foresee AI changing productivity and the nature of work in the next 5 to 10 years?
I think a lot of people are afraid that AI is just going to come in and replace us. I think, again, I don't know if that's going to happen or not happen. I think with every technology, there is significant job displacement, if not replacement. So some things will get replaced, I think. Up until now, we've been able to use technology to compute things faster. Now we're getting to a point where you have something at your fingertips that has more knowledge than 1,000 PhDs combined in every single subject. I think there's number one going to be displacement where I think some jobs get automated or something happens and then new kind of jobs get created and you kind of move into those. I think the second just big thing is probably going to be more augmentation and complementation than replacement outright. For a lot of professions, I think you're just going to need to use AI and become more productive. I think companies will likely get a lot smaller. Suddenly, the same level of productivity or a higher level can be, can be done with one person. We've already seen this with software, right? Software automated a lot of tasks within a company, which let companies get smaller, leaner, and so on. Great for shareholder value, perhaps. But the flip side of this is it also made it easier to build companies.
One of the things that you mentioned that we keep seeing is this fear around AI replacing jobs. So, as someone who has their finger on the pulse and knows AI so well, what advice would you give to someone in a traditional business preparing for this AI driven future for job protection?
First things first is, closing your eyes to something isn't going to make that reality disappear, right? So, for example, if you were a book retailer 30 years ago, closing your eyes to Amazon did not make the Amazon problem go away. My advice, honestly, at this point is don't stop your employees from using AI. I always believe like the best kind of work that happens within the company isn't necessarily top down but bottom up. It's employees on a day-to-day basis trying to solve problems for themselves, trying to automate these AI tools in their workflow, and then trying to drive that workflow forward, or maybe try to create new products or services with these tools that drives innovation forward. I think in some cases, you do have a CEO who is so amazingly technically adept and understands certain parts of the company so well that he or she can drive that change. I think that's entirely possible. But the reality is, if you're overseeing 100 or 1,000 people, you you cannot know their workflows and their jobs in as much detail as they do. They know it better than anyone else. So first of all, encourage them to use it. Maybe have a small budget, education, whatever you want to call it. Let them use it. Let them figure out their own problems and let them bring AI in. And once you're seeing it, getting used across a certain department function, maybe across the company, then okay, this is cool. We can adopt this. This is something we need to train our workforce on and so forth.
So, going back to your newsletter and seeing this growth within it, like you said, the largest AI newsletter, or at least one of, how did you get that growth? How did you see it accelerate? Any tips you have for others looking to do something like this?
At high level, what basically happened is I started writing on Twitter. At the end of a Twitter thread on AI would go viral, and at the end, I'll just say, hey, if you want to learn more about this, come follow my AI newsletter where I go more in depth. I share links on LinkedIn. At the end of my post, that was like a big driver for the newsletter. I think we probably have gotten a few 100,000 subscribers just by doing that. More specifically, if I can get into it, I would say what worked in social media, things move so fast that what worked 3 or 6 months ago isn't going to work now. My advice is don't focus too much on the growth hacks. You'll pick them up eventually. Make sure that you are writing content that you genuinely care about and are interested in and can really tell people something that they don't know. The second thing in terms of growth tactics, I think keep a keen eye out on different platforms. Just don't stay on one platform. Keep a different eye out on platforms. Use different platforms. See what's going viral, and just ask yourself, why is this thing going viral?
Deep fakes, right? That's a lot of the fear, especially for journalists who often have to source video or photos from around the world during, especially times of like breaking news. I
Yeah.
haven't seen any AI tools that are there yet at helping identify what is AI generated, but my hope for the future is that AI will help combat AI in a way where there
Yeah.
will be this tool that could help identify things like deepfakes for journalists. And someone recently recommended truemedia.org. I'm trying to test out some other tools, but have you seen anything out there that could help combat it? Or do you think AI could get to that level where it could protect against itself in a sense?
I don't think there will be a 100% foolproof solution for deepfakes. I think, an algorithm will get developed where it can catch it, and then someone's going to develop a new model that knows how to beat it. And this is going to turn into a cat and mouse thing. So I don't think there's going to be any perfect solutions here. I think the best way would just be to triangulate across, verified and reliable sources. But I do think this will get solved on the product level. I think there will be some service that helps you triangulate different sources to find what's true. That's where a lot of journalists will probably make the big bucks. They'll figure out a way to do things in a way that nobody else has figured out, and a lot of journalists and companies may learn to solve a very painful but important problem there.
Looking back at your journey, what advice would you give to your younger self when just starting off in the AI space?
I would say trust your gut, follow your curiosity. There's so much interesting stuff happening there that you'll eventually find your way to all the most important and interesting things within the space. Developing a deep understanding of what needs to be done rather than how it needs to be done. I think the how is really important. And then knowing what high quality output looks like, something we might call taste. These are going to become very, very important over the next sort of like 5, 10 years. And now that where if we reach a point, and I'm optimistic we'll reach that point where everyone has an access to these thousand little like robots that are doing work for them in the cloud, suddenly every good decision you can make has much better consequences. The ability to have good judgment, make good decisions, and really understand and have taste for what high quality output looks like and be able to direct those AI tools accordingly is going to become way, way, way more important than it is at this point.